Welcome everyone to the Pantheon. I'm your host Ray.
And I'm Evy.
And today we're looking at Batman and Robin, 1949 or 1943, depending on what source you have for your material. So I watched the entirety. I first watched the YouTube. They have a movie. Basically, it's an amalgamation of all the serials, which I think is like 12 episodes into one. So there's a 3-hour and 53-minute version, and then there's a 4-hour and 29-minute version, and then there's the actual serial. The 3-hour one cuts out all the cliffhangers, so it just is this one complete ongoing series. Rather than the cliffhanger where he gets blown up or knocked out of a car or whatever it is, you see him escape. So, what was your thoughts and what do you think of the series or the movie, depending on what you saw?
Depending on what I saw, I know that Batman and Robin are like criminals, or it seems like that because what they want to commit like the crimes just to make people do something that they want to do.
Okay.
It's like, they do bad things just to make people look good. They actually want to commit bad things that in the end that'll prove them that they could commit crimes for them or their sister or whatever else.
Okay. And this was the Batman 1943 version, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it Commissioner Gordon in this one or
yeah,
Vicky
there
Vale?
was actually. And the sheriff who want to do these crimes commit a crime, because like in the first one, he wants to help somebody named Cheryl.
Okay.
Like for a case, commit a crime for that person.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. And then when he gets Robin to help him, he feels like he's good, but in the end, he wants to do something bad. But to do that, he needs help, which is Robin. Anyway, that's interesting.
Was it still Bruce Wayne under the mask, or was it a different kind of character? Like how you had like when we did Captain America a couple years back, it wasn't Steve Rogers, it was somebody else. So
you're right.
What was it, still Bruce Wayne, or was it somebody else?
Somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah. What are your points on this? What do you think?
I don't think I saw the version that you saw. I think you saw a 1943 version. I was watching the 1949 version. That's probably why I got a little confused. So I got the one with Robert Lowry and John Duncan, which was like a serial, which is like a 12-issue serial. Black and white serial where they worked with the police and they were trying to stop this guy named Wizard, who was cloaked supervillain, similar to that of like the villain in like Captain Marvel, which is the Shazam character, or the Captain America 1944 version, where you have a guy who's always ahead, like 12 steps ahead, and always thinking like criminal mastermind and genius. So that's the one I saw. This one had Vicky Vale. Well, had a Vicky. They don't give her last name, but I guess based on the actual Detective comic books, he had a girlfriend named Vicky who was a reporter for the Daily Picture, and she was kind of snooping around. This one, they didn't have a Batmobile. He was similar to like Captain America 1944. He drove a car, and at one point, Vicky actually told him, like, you're driving Bruce Wayne's car. Calls it out in the middle of the show. So yeah, I mean, at least it was very self-aware of itself, even though it was kind of there's the 40s, so late 40s. So it was kind of, in our eyes, it'd be kind of kooky, kind of hokey, but it was really good. I really enjoyed the chemistry between Robin and Batman, but the villain was what makes this show really good, because back in the early 1990s, late 90s, there was a scientist named Emil Hamilton who helped Superman out. This one, you have Hamill, a scientist who makes this new device called the remote control device. Basically, it's a device that can control cars or all kinds of vehicles. within a 50-mile radius. So my double feature would have been something like Fate of the Furious with Cypher, who can control all those cars. And she's scene she goes, make it rain, and all the cars kind of fall down. So if this was made into a modern time, this is what you're dealing with, a guy named Cypher, who can control all those vehicles, remote controlling, and work it against you. So it made it hard for Batman to track these bad guys down, because whenever he got to a car, the wizard would control the vehicle and make it go off a cliff, or if he was flying a plane, he would down the plane or explode. So whenever Batman got close enough to the bad guys, the wizard would switch on the switch and control the vehicle. So it always made for really cool, like, to be continued. What's going to happen next? So that was kind of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, and I would give that, like, for me, if I had to give it a rating, it would be like an 8.5 out of 10. Because again, if you think about the time, it was compelling drama, and you're like, oh my God, like the 60s Batman, will he survive? Will he get away from the explosion? Will Robin escape the smoke, or they're trapped in a vault and it's about to give poisonous gas, or stuff like that. So it was kind of interesting how that would play out. Because of what you were saying, I was really interested in seeing Batman 1943, because I've never heard of like Batman going evil, and I thought, okay, so it's the next day. I literally saw this right after our discussion, and Evie, I got to tell you, you're right about this Batman being a darker Batman, and it's easy to confuse him for being, I guess to use the word, like he does, I won't say did crime, but he does things that you would say is criminal. Was that what you were phrasing it as?
Yeah. Okay.
So first of all, I want to say I spent 4.5 hours watching this. It's
wow.
So to give people kind of a heads up, okay, it's a serial from 1943. I'm guessing the series was maybe 25 to 30 minutes long, maybe 15 to 20 minutes long, and it's 15 episodes. So together, it comes to being like 4.5 hours of my time. The very, very first iteration on television or film of Batman and Robin. This was the first, and Shirley Patterson, who plays Linda Page, who is like the girlfriend, she is a Canadian from Manitoba. So the first representation of like a Canadian on an American big screen, 1943. And the last person from Manitoba that's a big name is Anna Paquin in terms of contemporaries. So it's for us, it's a big deal. Okay. So what you're saying, why this this series was sort of bad, and it didn't strike me until the 9th minute 9 into the first episode, because it takes place in 1943, which was when we had the World War. Okay, so to put in context, the villain is a Japanese villain, Prince Daka, right? And Pearl Harbor just took place about 2 years ago when this show came out, and about a year before this. About a year before this aired, Franklin Roosevelt, did an executive order,
right? Okay.
Called 9066, which basically Japanese Americans into containment. So about 120,000 Japanese Americans were internment. Right. So they basically shipped out, lock and key, lost their rights. Moved out. So because the scene you see a ghost town, it's called Little Tokyo. There's no one living there. It's because the government got involved, and that's what you're seeing is actual what took place. So and this series is extremely racist. Like at the beginning and near the end, there are racial slurs, and keeping in mind during the time, right? Like this was the Axis of Alliance. You hear the Axis of Evil. For World War II, they call the Axis Alliance because it was Germany, Italy, and Japan. So that's what was going on. That was the main theme of the time. So this caters to what was going on. And an easy villain at this time would be the Japanese because of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. Okay.
And it would be another 2 more years before the end of the World War. So they were in the thick of it. So this was a lot was going on, and this is probably a dark time for superheroes, and probably why no one revisited this character is because of the fact that he caught. Well, I can't say the words, but there's certain words like racial slurs that is said in the show, especially when the moment Batman realizes who the villain is, like he just yells it out. So it was quite alarming to see. But then again, if you look at like Captain America, I mean, during the Nazis, he was anti-Nazis. I mean, the very first image you see him is punching out Hitler, sucking it all to old Adolf, which was an actual cover image. So there was certain things that were questionable in the whole makeup of all this.
Okay.
So I thought it was interesting in the sense that it was very similar to the 1949 stuff in terms of the action pieces, the set pieces. And again, like Captain America, there was no Batmobile. He drove a car. And that was because of budget. They couldn't afford to have a Batmobile or a vehicle like the comic books, But they did stay true to the comic book, to the actual Detective Comics, where Batman went into disguises, like he was on the docks in disguise, because he was a master of disguise. So there's a sequence where they acknowledge that. So there was some stuff that was really truthful to the source material, and because of budget restraints or what have you, in the time, they kind of doctored the overall aesthetic of Batman and what he did. This was also, in terms of history, this was the youngest Batman and Robin on screen. Lewis Wilson was 23, the guy who plays Batman, and the guy who played Robin was actually 16 years of age. So when you look at him, 23, he looks like he's 33, 35. And I have to believe back in the day, those days, people who are youthful looked a little older than how we would look now,
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay. Cool.
But overall, I liked it. My double feature for that movie, I don't know if I would have a double feature, but it's still a pretty solid film, I kind of series. So it's a pretty solid series. It's just that it's educational if you understand the context in which it was made, and I think that's so it came across negatively in a sense because he was sort of like I guess modeled in the way of the times. And then with that, I am Ray.
I'm Evy.
And we'll talk to you next week.